As my previous few videos gain traction and I start to become more active, and as the Destiny 2 zealots pour sodium chloride on me like it's a bad golden shower, I figure I should speak out about a few things and address some other things that have been in my videos. Be warned now, if you're very sensitive to things like Destiny criticism and otherwise, this video may not be for you, and in fact make you very salty, angry, or even worse, leave a nasty comment. With that out of the way, let's move on to the video. As I comb through the forums and YouTube comments of many Destiny 2 videos, as if I were going through my own main, my beautiful, lustrous Afro main, I notice a lot of similarities, especially in the amount of naps that lead to the immediate tearjerk response that goes with that. If you're not aware of what I'm talking about, try tying a twisty tie around your comb and going through it. And imagine that being your hair. It's not a fun feeling. Of those many comments, bear with me, there is actually quite a few of these. One comment I notice is this, and this will be said appropriately in the proper voice.
The beta is only a stress test, and it's not for you to judge anything on.
Now, even if I wasn't being very overzealous with the way I was presenting this comment, dissecting this comment is like pleasing or pleasuring your mate. You can fuck it up, or you can really fuck it up. That being said, I just watched House and Bones. Don't ask me why, just happened to be on TV, so I think I got this for now. Beginning with the stress test part, although this can be backed up to some extent by the few tweets that come from Bungie Almighty that says something about the server's connections and other long drawn out terms that really don't mean jack. And other than that, the Destiny 2 beta is regarded as just that, a beta. It's not me putting words in their mouth, folks, it's how they've marketed it and sold it. Pre-order for early access to the Destiny 2 beta. Like this was fried food in the south or something, they were gonna run out or something like that. Not a stress test, a beta. Not a network test, a beta. And they felt comfortable enough keeping that at the forefront for sales. Don't worry, I'll get to that later. To keep calling it a beta. Here's a better way of approaching this. Many games have network tests, and they call them just that, network tests. They are brief, and only have a few things, if not just one playable mode to test connections. Even though we seem to still have games with day one server issues for some reason and peer-to-peer headbutts or something. Either way, the point is that the network test term does indeed exist. Destiny 2's beta, I and many others have criticized for being too small, especially considering their past work, which I'll just say is like bringing a wooden shiv to a gunfight, a bazooka gunfight. That being said, I find that a lot of people have a point to some extent. It seems more like a stress test, is what I hear a lot of people say. And that's putting the comments lightly, you pretentious little cunt. Moving on, I tend to see the side of the argument, once again, to some extent. Destiny 2's beta is very light in terms of content. Destiny 2's beta let us have access to PvE and PvP in seemingly only two instances. The two Crucible game modes and the one strike. Don't be surprised if connection is asked day one, all I'm just saying. We get limited gear and not much in the way of demonstration on why the hell you should even tilt your head to buy this game. But if Destiny 2's beta was a stress test, this would add up a bit better. But methinks there's more to this than meets the eye. There's your token mech show reference from Transformers, disclaimer, don't watch it unless you're drunk. Isn't it strange that this beta has so many similarities to a stress test, and not the one we were put into by downloading and playing it? Why didn't they just call it a network test? I mean, that's what everyone keeps saying it is. That's what they've said in certain tweets, although the majority of them they still say it's a beta and don't refer to it as that. Which I guess now is a better time, more than any, to explain something, since I keep putting emphasis on the word beta, and a lot of people don't seem to understand the difference between these three terms, beta, network test, and demo, and act like they can be switched like two screws on a shelf, when it's more like two columns on a skyscraper, or at least two of them, it is. I guess since I'm hammering in that analogy into the ground, and it's subsequently the one everyone's talking about, like it's the 8th plague or something, I'll talk about betas and network test first. The distinction here is that a network test is generally defined as a server stability test for computers and servers. No duh. They don't entail much of playing anything, and generally only give a bare minimum of content because they're not giving you a display of content. They're giving themselves a fire alarm. A beta is generally regarded as a final display of the game's features and content while in test mode, before it goes Golden Boy. It will have a few bugs in it, but the important thing about this is that generally, it's best to have people try out as much varied stuff and content as possible, to the point where they actively want you to, to break their game and party like DK. Because like I said, after this, it's gold. Most things get finalized and ingrained in the code after this. Not that changes can't be made, of course, just that not many, especially, when you're a month and a half from launch. Isn't that right, Destiny 2? Either way, if you were listening, you'll notice I said varied, not a lot of content. I said varied amounts of content, but not necessarily just a copious amount of content. True that generally this is synonymous to the fact where it leads to a lot of content if you have a lot of varied content, but the key thing is to have people playing and trying a lot of different things rather than the same stuff, like, this is Destiny 1 or something. Basically, it's like the difference between playing a strike, a story mission, a crucible map, a patrol, and other patrol events that, weren't in the beta, and basically playing 5 story missions and 2 crucible modes. You don't get that same variation, and although the amount might be equivalent, it's not the same amount of variation the beta should be showing. Here's a little psychology insight for you. Have you all ever heard of conditioned stimuli? Basically, if I keep poking you with a small object, every time you leave a nasty comment, while giving you a cookie, for every good one you leave, you have a high probability of leaving a good comment, regardless of why you wanted to leave the comment in general. Why did I bring this up? Small objects and cookies? Because I'm indoctrinating you, and I'm going to condition you now. I'm joking. Of course I'm joking. For now. But it has to do with demos and betas. See, as the decrease of the term demo and gaming came about and the rise of the term beta increased to the point where the two became almost the same exact thing. No. One of these things is not exactly like the other. Demos are effectively ripped straight from the final game, and any bugs present have the high probability of being in said final version of the game, since, this is the final version of the damn thing. In many cases, it is single player oriented, but in some cases, like for example Battlefield Company 1 and 2, it is multiplayer. In any case, that is the main difference between the two, and regardless of what many people seem to believe, the amount of content generally doesn't change between these two, or is just the things everyone played or did mostly in the beta, by, looking at the numbers and data from that stuff. And since there'll be that guy in the comment section, yes, it is actually very common for many people to make their final decisions on purchasing a game based on the demo and beta builds of the game, considering proper betas showcase as much of the game's systems, game types, and progression of the before the final build as possible to make, a hopefully well-built tower that is a game and not a mound. Destiny. Not a mound, Destiny. Anyways, links to the information in the description, and I would highly recommend the MMO one. It is more relevant and a good bathroom read. Whereas we know the most important thoughts happen. Just ask our president. So, why then did they, mismark it, or label this thing as a beta instead of a network test, as many people claim it is? Look at every Destiny 2 video, and you'll see someone exclaiming, "Hype train, woo woo!" Yeah, I wish the hype train would just steamroll you, finally. I'm not bitter, what are you talking about? I, and apparently many others, hear the term beta. You'd have to forgive us for not thinking about network and stress test right away, if at all. You think beta, especially when you've seen or played the previous game's beta. Granted, not the full package that the game has to offer, true, but something that outlines or represents what most of the game's various modes and progression systems are going to entail. Look at games like Battleborn, Battlefront, and even Destiny 1, damn it. Now, granted, all these games have their fair share of problems, I'll admit, making them akin to the black sheep in the family that leaves the occasional shat stain. I'll bring that around in a moment. Still, you'd think they wouldn't want to bring any of those stains into, their new game, Destiny 2. Or, it just could be family tradition or something. As I think about it, 3 very possible scenarios happened here. Some of them more worrying than others, but we'll get into that. Either A, the beta is just that, a beta, and it was significantly dumbed down for unknown reasons. Hopefully it wasn't, that if they did another beta comparable in size to their previous game's beta, that they realized they would run into the same shortcomings as the previous game, even though, for the last 2 or 3 years they've been saying that Destiny 2 is going to have twice as much and more content in it, so they sure as hell wouldn't run into the same problem like that, right? Right?
I don't even have time to explain why I don't have time to explain.
Of course, because that makes perfect sense.
I will.
That's the best line in the entire game.
Yeah, I don't even have time to make. Wait,
I wasn't
wait.
talking to you.
I don't have time to even
I
explain
don't even
why I
have
don't
time
have
to explain why I don't have time to explain.
That's just the weirdest comment I've ever heard.
Or the beta was indeed just that, a network test, and this was simply a very well directed marketing ploy at a very impressionable audience that would boost pre-order numbers and sacrifice more souls to the Cthulhu Overlord. The last one's a pretty big stretch, but I'm sticking with it. What do I think after 11 minutes of this crap? It's both. No one, and I mean no one, should blame anyone for doubting Bungie vision after the colossal shortcomings and No Man's Sky levels of deceit that went into Destiny 1, and by extension this half-assed Destiny 2's beta we got. That is just a poorly done network test. You honestly think that you won't be getting dropped like it's hot on launch day in the first week? Ugh, ignorance is bliss. Distastefully, I'm sure some pencil pusher thought of this during the first showcase of the Destiny 2, main event they had in May. And knowing how much dribble and BS the Destiny community seems to open wide for, I'm sure they thought this would fly over well. Considering the excuses I've seen, they definitely have reason to think so. And I know there are some very intelligent people in the Destiny community, which annoys me even more. And although the game isn't out yet, I'm still worried about how the amount of content and quality of said content will be at launch. Because the beta isn't out yet. Oh wait, it is out and they gave us no insight on how the things we were worried about were going to actually be. At the end of the day, they just want to push those pre-order numbers and sales, and they don't care about you more than the number on the board you represent. To that extent, come join the channel. I upload frequently games, anime, and obscure pop culture references and things that nobody really cares about. It's a blast, and feedback and debate is always healthy, provided there's facts to back them up, of course. And just remember, you're always more than a number on the board here for me. See you in the next video where I try not to tear this game more than my love life. Remember kids, self-roasting is okay as long as there's no sharp objects present.